I came into The Last of Us expecting it to be sort of another post-apocalyptic game, sort of along the same lines as dozens of other post-apocalyptic games. But Naughty Dog actually has a very unique take on the post-apocalypse. It's much darker and much more depressing than anything else that's out there right now.
Attention. Citizens are required to carry a certain ID at all times. Compliance with all city personnel standards.
The Last of Us follows Joel, who is a middle-aged survivor who's clearly been through some shit. Joel lives in the middle of a military-protected quarantine zone, and he's basically just not living very well, sort of like everybody else in this really devastated world. He's introduced to Ellie, who's a 14-year-old girl who's trying to make her way west, and they end up on this adventure together, crossing through these dangerous regions of the United States that have been abandoned in the midst of this plague. The player gets to witness the relationship between Joel and Ellie evolve in a really natural way. I think it leads to some incredibly powerful moments. Because you've spent so much time with these two characters, it's the kind of narrative building that I've come to expect from Naughty Dog, but it's done especially well in The Last of Us. A lot of third-person action games expect you to just shoot through all of the enemies, but that's not really a luxury that you have in The Last of Us. You can take on these enemies head-on, but you're given the option to just sneak past them. These stealth sequences are incredibly tense and left me feeling on edge, but I also felt really good. I didn't want to expose this 14-year-old girl I was traveling with to any more horrific violence than she'd already seen in this world. The Last of Us is an absolutely stunning game to look at, but this also means that little things stand out more than they normally would. Sometimes when you're exploring in close quarters, your AI partners will bump into you and glitch out. More commonly, as you're sneaking between cover, your AI partners will follow you, but if enemies spot them, they won't notice them. These little visual problems are kind of nitpicks, but in a game as cinematic and beautiful as The Last of Us, they really stand out and they really pulled me out of the game. As the game progresses, you get thrown into more and more traditional shooter segments, like waves of enemies coming at you. The problem with these shooting segments is that the shooting doesn't feel great. Joel has a realistic but frustrating shakiness to his aim, and that makes it difficult to hit anything that's in front of him. And to make matters worse, the game pits you against certain infected enemies that can pull off an instant one-hit kill as soon as they're in melee range. The bad gunplay doesn't completely ruin The Last of Us, but it definitely makes it a much more frustrating experience. The amount of violence in The Last of Us isn't abnormal for a video game, but it does feel especially bad because you have this 14-year-old girl traveling with you. By the end of the game, I didn't feel like Joel was justified in a lot of the actions he was taking, and as the person controlling him, I felt terrible for committing them. And it feels like a waste of how much Naughty Dog made me care about these two characters. The multiplayer mode in The Last of Us was way better than I expected. The poor aiming mechanics from the single player have been kind of fixed, and run-of-the-mill deathmatch and team deathmatch options are aided by a really cool, world-appropriate metagame. The better you do in the multiplayer, the more people can join your camp and survive and thrive. It's a really engaging shell that made me want to keep jumping back into the multiplayer, and it gave me reasons to keep returning to the game. And even better, it tied into the world in a way that makes sense. The Last of Us sticks to its dark worldview, and I want to respect it for that, but not all of its choices feel cohesive. The more mindless shooting that it asked of me, the less that I cared about the world or the characters that it had spent so long trying to convince me were important. Naughty Dog has created a fascinating, sometimes incredible experience in The Last of Us, but any deeper meaning gets lost in the same hail of gunfire that I've experienced in dozens of other third-person action games.